do it. New scenery today. Welcome. All right. Let's get into it. I'm Tanner from Broad Solutions. Today I'm going to be talking about Core Web Vitals, real tools, real fixes, improve SEO, UX, and revenue by fixing what Google wants. I'm Tanner Broadhagen from Broad Solutions, a self-taught website programmer. Started this agency in 2012. Alongside me is Caitlin Burns, a recent Western Michigan grad, and joined the team in 2024. Our strategy today is to use the Google tool set to identify the core Web Vital issues specifically. So we're going to run through each of those. That looks like Google Search Console, which is the validator and the record keeper of what's actually going on with the core Web Vitals and the reporting on that. Then we can use a URL checker and run a PageSpeed Insight and get real-time results. And the latter here is using the inspector tool on Google Chrome, which is in the DevTools section. On Google Search Console, these results are found under the Experience menu option and called Core Web Vitals. And I'm showing a screenshot here of what we will be looking at, but basically they rank these in a poor, need improvement, or good on all of the URLs that they are seeking. And so if I hop over to one of my Google Search Console properties, you'll find that under Experience and Core Web Vitals. And on this landing page here, you'll see a difference between mobile and desktop, and Google goes out and crawls independently on a mobile device as well as a desktop device and gets these two different scores. You can see here that there are 0 poor URLs, 66 need improvement or yellow URLs, and 45 good URLs with a historical timestamp for the mobile report here. And then if you look down at the desktop, it is different and these do vary. There's only 15 need improvement URLs and 96 good ones. I focus on mobile first because that is where most of the searches are, and that's what Google does favor as far as search goes. And when you open it up, I like to click on all of the URLs to make sure I can see the history and what's going on. Over time, I can see that the number of URLs really haven't changed so much. However, there is a little bit of imbalance with the need improvement URLs that are going along ever since Friday the 13th in June. And so right there, it was 68, went up as high as 91, dropped back down to 15, and now it's a little steady at 66. So there's something going on with our URLs. And if we scroll down, we can tell at the bottom why they aren't considered good. And so it's in an orange category or a yellow category, which means it needs improvement. And it's stating 2 reasons why. The first one is CLS, or cumulative layer shift, is over 0.1 for mobile. And that is past their threshold of being good. That's the movement on your page when you load it on a mobile device. The other issue here affecting 15 specific URLs is LCP, or the largest contentful paint. That's the item that pops in to view on your first load, and that is taking longer than 2.5 seconds, which ultimately has a bad customer experience. So that's something that they recommend that you fix. What's nice about this is you can click on it, and it will also show you a history of that specific issue within Google Search Console, as well as a validating fix button, which I'll reference later on. But basically, once you're done doing all of the work here, you'll click that. Google will know to go out and re-index these pages and try to see if the improvements have been made, and then let you know about it. If I scroll down, they do group these URLs together. So I'm looking at a singular URL, but there are 51 in this group. And if I click on this, I can see that the structure is the same, where we're looking specifically at the .com/blogs and news category here. And if I scroll, it's affecting all of these blogs, news pages. And so I know editing the theme, that's where I'm going to need to go, is to go into the blogs and fix the news type of template and fix the CLS issue that's going on here. If I go back out to all of the issues and click on LCP and go down, I can see that it had been bad before. Something's changed and now it's affecting maybe half of the URLs that it used to. And these are on different pages. The home page is having a 2.6 loading time, which isn't that bad, but it's being flagged for that, as well as a specific product group of 14 products that are loading in 2.7 seconds. What's nice about this is it's showing the history and what's going on. However, beyond just clicking onto that and saying that you need to do something about it, it's not terribly helpful. And so hopping back into the slide here, what we do is we run a tool that checks in real time against the performance on these specific issues, and it's called PageSpeed Insights. That can be found at pagespeed.web.dev. And I've already plugged in the blog news URL that it was flagging on into a PageSpeed Insight. And what it does is it runs both a mobile and a desktop checker against the experience. And the first thing that it'll display is what the real users are experiencing. So this is that historical stuff that you're seeing on the Core Web Vitals in Google Search Console. But basically, this is the real user data from the last 28 days. And it's being recorded so that we can see what's actually happening. And so we're not seeing any flags on mobile real user data, with CLS being 0, as well as LCP being a 2.2 second. And so there's nothing going on technically with this specific URL in the 28-day history. However, going down to the diagnosing of the performance issues, this is what it has run when I ran it, specifically emulating a mobile connection here. It gives me these outputs, but the main one that we were being told about was CLS. And so that's giving a score of a 0.01. So we can kind of tell that the Core Web Vitals indicator for mobile and affecting 51 of these pages, you can see that it is and then it isn't. Currently, there's nothing wrong with it as of today. So something odd is going on, and that's something to look into. There's nothing down here that's going to help you understand CLS issues if there is not a problem. We could actually rerun this again and probably get a different result, which does happen, and try to identify what's going on there. The main suggestion to fix CLS is always putting a width and a height on an image, and that helps it understand the region and the layout of where something's supposed to be, so that like if your image comes in, it doesn't automatically shift or get bigger or smaller because it already knows how large it's going to be. So that's one of the main fixes there. It is throwing a flag on the LCP, so it's saying it's 3.9 seconds and taking way too long to come in. And if I click on the audits on the LCP, these are the suggestions that we're going to see. And the first one says largest contentful paint element, and it's taking almost 4 seconds or 3,900 milliseconds to load into the page. And it's identifying specifically that there's a H1 header thing going on. And so this is something that a developer needs to look into to understand why this is loading in late. Sometimes these are false positives as well, because usually it's an image that we're looking for. So ideally this would be the featured image of the blog, and that would be loading first. But there is no featured image on this specific page, so it's identifying just the text and saying that it's loading late. There's a few other suggestions here, along with reducing the unused CSS, text compression, eliminate block rendering sources. All of this is very technical. However, there is more information to learn by clicking on these documentation links for Lighthouse and Google. There's also the option to look at the desktop performance. So the desktop real user data in the 28-day history also says it's fine. The score is a lot better. Speeds are much faster on desktop in general, but a 3-second load time is pretty good. And then it's saying that the LCP is only 1 second and there's no CLS or cumulative layer shift. And so if you look at the bottom here, we can also see that one of the main offenders of the load time is the JavaScript, and those are the scripts that are running on your site. Usually it's a third-party app or a tracking software like Google Tag Manager or analytics and stuff like that. And you can identify which ones in order are taking the longest or are the heaviest in slowing down your website. Another tool that can be used is called Lighthouse, or using the Google Chrome DevTools to run a Lighthouse check and do the exact same thing. What's nice about that is if you come over and go inspect in your DevTools here, you can run specifically what you want to do. So I can choose that I want to see the mobile version on performance. And I'm starting with a cleared storage, which means it's going to load the page fresh the first time and not have anything cached. It's giving me a pre-render view above this, so I can see how it loads as it's going. I do have the screen loaded above it, but it is working in the background here. And what's nice about this is that just ran a mobile page speed check, and it's saying that I have a 67 score, which matches this one. But we're seeing an LCP of 2.1 seconds instead of the longer one, which was 3.9 seconds. And so there is a lot of variability in this tool. So we start with Google Search Console first to identify that there is something going on that needs to be looked at. It's becoming an issue over time. Grab the URLs of what it's identifying, run a PageSpeed Insight to just do a check and see what's going on. And then if you're really unsure about where things are at and what's going on, you can run this independent Lighthouse check on Google Chrome tools and do the same kind of thing. What's nice about the Chrome tools here is that if you're a theme developer and working on this locally, which is not a public URL, which is required for PageSpeed Insights, you can go in here and run stuff on your local host and do the same Lighthouse checks. The only tiny thing that happens is sometimes the apps don't come in because it's a local host. But nonetheless, you can check on the normal page elements that you really need to focus on. All that being said, the most common e-commerce issues that we see with Core Web Vitals are the hero images being too large, and that's affecting the largest contentful paint. So that's your image that you first see when you first load the website. On home pages, it's usually a hero that identifies something cool about your brand. On product pages, it's usually that first image of the product. And on category pages, sometimes there's a category image. And ideally, we ask our marketing teams and our website people to compress the image as much as they can, reduce the image size as well as the pixels to help that load a lot faster. We hadn't mentioned it too much because PageSpeed doesn't identify it specifically, but INP is too much JavaScript and too many apps that are going on. A lot of times you can defer some of those so they don't load until after the page is loaded, which is really nice. And there's other techniques you can do to increase performance there. And then the shifting, that a lot of things that you see in e-commerce are going to be like banners for sales, as well as pop-ups for entering your email or saving 10% and things like that. I put font swap on here too because sometimes the fonts will change in front of your face, and that's custom fonts for branding and things that people have. The other things to fix that we focus on is primarily mobile, which has the highest impact on performance, and mobile phones just don't have a lot of resources to make load times fast or load pictures or videos quickly. And so on mobile, we really address the heroes of the page, which are those first images that show up, and optimizing those gets you a lot of optimization and fixing these Core Web Vitals. Going into all the images here, smaller in size is ideal. Using the right dimensions, which means the right pixels for that image, is really important. A high quality camera can take 5,000 width pixel images and be 10 megabytes in size, but you don't want to load that on a website. You really want to load a specific height and width according to what you need. So product images, 1500 pixels, 1280 pixels, is ideal there. And using the correct format, if it's an image, a JPG, if it's a rendered image or a graphic of sorts, a PNG works really well. And I wrote in here lazy load below the fold. So the above the fold images need to load right away. They need to be prefetched and loaded, but anything that is below the fold, which means as you scroll on the website, either on your phone or on the desktop, those can be lazy loaded or loaded as they're needed, and that helps with the Core Web Vitals as well as speed. Hopping into the third-party apps, getting rid of the bloat and removing those old apps is key. Deferring or asyncing those JavaScript things is really nice. Managing those pop-ups and those chat widgets, which come up in your face right away. Ideally, those are delayed so they don't affect Core Web Vitals nor the page speed, and they don't interrupt the user experience, which is ranked poorly for a lot of websites. And then the imports are fonts, CSS, and JavaScript, and just making sure that those are loading properly and or prefetched, and getting rid of the bloat on those and making sure that you don't load something that isn't necessary. So your next steps into discovering if you have an issue on any of these pages is to run your own audit, and that's to start with Google Search Console, see the history of what's going on, find some URLs that are offenders, pop those URLs in the PageSpeed Insights, and get immediate feedback on those. You'll want to go through and fix or delegate those technical items, so minimizing those long tasks, freeing the JavaScript, everything we've talked about so far, getting rid of those heavy scripts. There are some very technical things there that we can help you with on our Core Web Vitals Boost. And then once you're done, you'll want to hit that revalidate button, which I identified in the beginning in Google Search Console. And what that does is it tells Google to go out and reanalyze those web pages and make sure that they're not wrong or hitting on the thresholds of needing fix or poor. So the takeaways here today are to see the history of that page experience, and that takes Google Search Console and a property setup. How to test in real time is using PageSpeed and Chrome DevTools, and that helps identify those issues that you're having specifically with the page. And then once you're done, you'll hit revalidate and you're good to go, and you'll see your rankings go up, your user experience, and your revenue soar. Thank you.